Welcome to the live online info session for the Ashton College Change Management Training course. My name is CJ. I'm with the Marketing and Communications team. Very excited to have you all here. We are joined by several colleagues today. We have Lindsay, also from Marketing. We have our lovely instructor, Monika, and we have Maggie from Admissions, who's going to be sharing about the process. Just a couple of housekeeping notes before we get into the session and interview portion. We love engagement. We can answer any questions you might have during the session. If you're joining us over Zoom, you can leave us a comment in the chat box or even use the Q&A function or the raise hand function if you want to come on microphone. If you're watching on Facebook Live, please do drop us a comment there. We will be monitoring those and can answer your questions during the session. If you're watching on YouTube, just leave us a comment there or feel free to email us at ceinfo@ashtoncollege.ca or give us a call at 604-891-1256 or toll free at 1-866-759-6006. And to get us started off for today, I'm going to pass the microphone over to Maggie, who's going to speak about admissions.
Thank you very much, CJ, and I would like to welcome everyone. Hello, my name is Maggie, Admissions Officer for the Continuing Education Division. And Ashton College is here to help you prepare with our Human Resources Continuing Education courses. Our Change Management Certification course is accredited by the Association of Change Management Professionals, or ACMP. And Ashton College is listed on the ACMP's Qualified Education Providers, or QEP registry. And this is the course that will fulfill the ACMP 21-hour training requirement for their Certified Change Management Professional, or CCMP credential. The course is offered part-time through live online format that will start on October 5 till November 16 of 2021. Again, the start date is on October 5 till November 16, 2021. The webinars will be held on Tuesdays from 5 till 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. The registration fee for this course is $995. Our change management training not only prepares you for success in a change management role by teaching you relevant knowledge and skills, but it also prepares you to earn your CCMP designation down the line to further advance your career. Please visit our website at ashtoncollege.ca for more information, or email me at ceinfo@ashtoncollege.ca or call at 604-891-1256. Thank you, CJ. Back to you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Maggie. And now I'm very excited to hand it over to you, Monika, who I'm going to be interviewing today. Thank you so much for joining us and for your time today.
It's my pleasure to be here. Hello, everyone, and great to see you, CJ, again.
Wonderful. You as well. So to start us off, could you share a little bit about your experience, maybe your educational background, and how you ended up as a teacher at Ashton College?
How to make a long story short, huh? That's the challenge today. I think the best way to describe my experience and background is that it combines two different focuses. Like, my career encompasses both management consulting and working in the industry, specifically insurance and financial industry. So how I ended up doing what I'm doing is I do have two graduate degrees. One degree I have from actually Poland, where I'm originally from, and it's in international politics and economics. And I obtained it when actually Europe was going through a lot of changes, when the borders were opening and European Union was just being created. Wow. So that was big change happening in Europe. And the second degree I have, it's my Master of Business Administration. I received it in Edmonton, Alberta at U of A. And really early on, I started my career in marketing. So a lot of learning of how do we effectively position different products to the market, how do we effectively communicate that to consumers, but also how do we effectively gauge what works or what doesn't from the consumer perspective. As I did my MBA, I really naturally recognized that there not only I have a lot of interest and I'm intrigued and in a way passionate about all the subject related to organizational development, organization behavior, people dynamics, human resources. And there were a few subjects related to change, and that also triggered my interest. So after finishing my MBA, I started my career in management consulting. And as you are in consulting, you work with a lot of different organizations who are undertaking very ambitious, either strategic priority projects or are trying to change. And that's how I learned about change management. And that automatically right away piqued my interest. And I even remember the day when I said to my coaches and the partner saying, I want to learn how to do this without even knowing what this is. So then in the process, of working with different organizations and actually doing change management, and at that point, industry was really in infancy. That's how slowly over time, I really developed a really, really deep passion. And later on, my career took me to work directly inside the organizations, both in financial industry and insurance. And in both organizations I work with, I had a pleasure of actually establish internal teams that were developing change management competency, and we were developing this function internally. So in that process, that led to me coaching, training, develop a lot of courses internally in those organizations and teaching. And that led then, okay, well, I'm doing this. I connected also with ACMP, Association of Change Management Professional, had a pleasure to speak at some conferences, gain more experience over the years, and knowing how, in a way, this profession can be challenging. Change sometimes is really challenging, especially the more complex it is. That naturally led to passion and recognitions that really, I love sharing my knowledge. I love see other people learn and see how they can successfully navigate the field of change management. So it was a natural step for me to say, hey, I want to teach, I want to reach out. Now I have enough gray hair and experiences to share. It's the right thing to do. So that's why I'm here.
Amazing. Very thorough, very succinct. Thank you. You mentioned several times how things would pique your interest or you get excited about them. So what exactly was it that made you decide to be a change management professional, or what about change management inspired you so much?
I think three things, if I were to really summarize it. The first one would be definitely the aspect that you are taking something that you currently know, and you have this great opportunity of creating something completely new. And sometimes that's opportunity of almost, making impossible possible, right? So it's potentially the challenge and innovation aspect, but really that ability for innovation, improvement, and change. That always have been a huge driver for me and always huge motivator to really step out and be part of that creation process. The second part is the discipline is incredibly people focused, not only with what you're trying to achieve, but also of how you do it or what you need to do it successfully. It's very people oriented, and that also spoke to me. And I think the third one is really the fact that you learn so much. Like none of the projects or initiatives you're doing is the same. And even after so many years, like I've been doing it for over 15 years right now, you always learn something. There is always new context, there is always new challenge, there is always new circumstances. And our world is also drastically changing. So you're constantly learning and discovering new things. And that just really keeps you very engaged.
Exciting. Thank you. So we might have attendees with all sorts of different backgrounds and experience levels around, what change management is. So just to give us a bit of some foundational understanding, can you think of any famous examples of big organizations that have, gone through change management? Any examples we can think of?
Yeah, I actually, when we were looking, when I was looking at this question, I thought about it, and I have I want to mention three things here because I think it's again, one answer doesn't do it justice, I think, right? So if you think about, if you frame it as most famous, the names, like even if you Google, like the names like Nokia come up, right? Apple come up, Netflix come up. But if you really think about it, the biggest at the core of that, of all those big famous companies that are doing, it's really change of their business model. So, and that's kind of more a larger size of change, right? When a lot of those organizations, so for example, Nokia, they were a mobile phone company. And then the market was really kidnapped pretty much overnight by Apples and Samsungs, right? And they really needed to move from a mobile phone. So they decided to move into the space of distribution and networking. So if we really think about what it takes from the company that produces one product, specific product, to really change within a very short period of time to address the revenue and all the operational challenges and start position itself in the new business. If you really look dimensionally of everything that has to change, and more of that, there is what has to change. But then if you think who has to do those changes and who needs to adapt those changes, that's where change management really kicks in. It's all about people. It's not only about what people need to do to change things in the organizations, but how people need to adapt and adopt them themselves. So that's one example, I think, around, any organization shifting the business model from producing one product to another. If I think about how change management as a discipline was created, another example is, and I don't have the name, but there is few of the organizations, they probably don't even want to share the names, that were trying to really implement a big new technologies, right? So any ERP systems implementations were always really huge and very challenging, at least at the very beginning. And what organizations were doing at the beginning, they were fully and solely focusing just on the technology side of things. And then surprisingly, they came to, okay, technology is ready, let's launch it. They literally flipped the switch, and then organization really halts to the stop. And people can't do their everyday work. They don't know how to do their work. And really organization gets to the halt, like the stall, and people are really almost like in revolt because we can't do our jobs. And there are a few of those examples, like some of you may have heard there's an article why 70% of organizations fails. It's some of those examples actually triggered that, because where the mistake was everybody was focusing on technology, but forgot that the big component of driving those big changes, it's actually people. So that's where change management really got a hold of grip, that we not only need to focus on a solution, we also need to focus on organization context and solution, right? And everything else, how to adopt that solution and make it work. And I think the third example is really when change management comes to mind. Like, I think if everybody looks at their life, if you look at how you used to shop versus how right now you may be shopping online, or any services you were accessing before by phone, and right now you're getting them done by the click on a button on your phone. Think about how organizations need to change to move to those digital models and provide those digital services. How does it impact what happened to the person behind the phone? Did they actually start doing stuff on a technology, or did they lose their job? What happened to them? What new things, new processes have to occur in the organizations? That's all change management is looking for, and making that transition from A to B.
I think that's such a clear explanation, and 3 vibrant examples to really give us that foundation. So thank you. Big question. Why do you think so many organizations and individuals actually fear change?
Yeah, this is a very interesting question. And I'm even, I know the common language is around the fear and resistance. I'm not a big fan of that. I always get a pause. And I think there's a couple of factors that impact that. Like, I think, I'm not sure if people fear change, or is it more the fact that, I think we need to look more at that human behavioral psychological level, which is also a foundational piece to change management, because this is what we really solve for in change management. So fundamentally, in that psychological and behavioral level, as humans, we are used to what we know. We like our comfort zone. We like predictability and control. And if we ask to do something that we don't understand or it's completely new, there is that hesitancy and reservation because we're asking people to abandon safety, control, right, and predictability. So I think that's one of the factors. So I don't know necessarily if it's fear or is it just maybe lack of, and that's again what change management is trying to solve for. It's probably lack of providing, right, a new comfort, a new safety, and an explanation. The second part, I think, is why people fear change or a resistance is also because we do have a history of organizations trying to take on a big and complex changes, and unfortunately those have not been managed well and they didn't go well, and it has been a very, very painful experience for a lot of employees. So right now, when some of those organizations are saying we need to move to digital business model, or we need to change services, or we're introducing this change, there is that natural, not necessarily fear, but really reservation about it because, whoa, that was hard. I remember that. That was a painful experience. I don't want to go through it again, right? So I think that's another factor. So I think it's a combination of things, but it's really that basic human psychological aspect of how we are built, and then potentially a history of experience with change.
Absolutely. Thank you. My next question for you is, what qualities or characteristics or even personality traits do you think makes someone ideally suited for a career in change management?
Whew, that's a, so it's a good question, and it's very an interesting question, because actually if you look even at our professional association, ACMP, you would notice that when we have a conference and you meet people from different countries globally who practice this discipline, there are certain similarities. And there is a certain type of people that are drawn to this discipline and can do this job. First of all, I think one that is really critical is that you need to be a fairly, how they say, people person. You need to be really good and open and comfortable with building relationship, establishing trust with other people, bring that confidence, but also that easiness, approachability. Because the job is really not only about people, and you need to be able to engage anyone at any organizational level and have a good, solid conversation, but it's also about working with different people through a lot of challenges during the change. And sometimes you work with it through not necessarily because you have a formal authority, you work through influence. So those people skills are really critical. I also think it takes a lot of persons who have a lot of patience and persistence and a fairly open-minded, that understand, because any change is difficult change. There is not an easy change to do it and navigate it in the organizational context. And not everything is straightforward. So it requires person who have that flexibility, who have that open-mindedness, and who are able to adjust very often, even if things don't go well. You need to understand that things won't go well, and that's okay. And you can quickly readjust and adapt and be patient with it. And I also think it takes a little bit of a grit, because sometimes, I will be honest, it's not an easy job. Sometimes you feel like you're the only one driving for change, and there is a lot of obstacles. It's also a new discipline, so not in every organization everybody will fully understand what your job is. So sometimes you need that grit to not only help others understand that what you're doing is important, but also to deal with a lot of challenges and obstacles and try and overcome them. And you are the one driving change sometimes, right? So you need to be ready for that. You need that grit, stamina, patience, persistence, but those personal skills are the most important, probably, because they help you with everything else.
Makes a lot of sense. Let's talk a little bit more about the course itself.
Yes.
And you, how would you describe your teaching style?
I think, I'm a firm believer that everyone that comes to classroom has insight and experiences that they can share with everyone. So everyone can learn from anyone, right?
Mhm.
And typically in our classes, I've seen majority of our students who are already professionals. They are established in their careers. There are some students who are just starting, the educational process. They don't have that many professional experiences. But if we have already a classroom of professionals, doesn't matter what path, right, of life they walk in, they already have a lot of experiences. And I really like to draw that out. So really the way I'm designing the classes and teaching the classes to always leave a lot of room for conversation, a lot of room for questions, and really enabling that shared learning with me more in a role of a facilitator and subject matter expert, when I can provide either a different perspective or share the knowledge and experience that I probably have. That's why I'm instructor, I guess, but really enabling collaboration and learning from each other. And I'm also really, I'm also driving that because I've also noticed in my career, whether in organizational context or from my educational degrees, is that's how everybody learned the most. It wasn't the teacher speaking, it was students collaborating and problem solving together. So also a big part of the course over, like, I think we have 7 classes, anywhere from class 3 to class 7, part of the class and work is on a team project. It's a team project base. So we're trying to really push in towards that peer learning, but also take the learning from the class and apply it more practically.
I love the emphasis on collaboration and
Yeah.
practicality. It's fantastic to hear.
Yeah, sometimes we talk too much almost in the class. I tell my students we talk too much sometimes, but I think that's also where everybody gets the most value.
For sure. This might connect to your previous answer. What do you think students will enjoy most about the course?
I actually think that aspect, like, if I were to take the feedback from my previous students, my previous classes, what I heard from them is all of them really enjoy that team assignment. That was really when everything came the most real for them, and that shared learning, because I'm really trying also to mix everyone so they don't really, they have ability to learn from others, from different industries, different backgrounds. And that's what students enjoy the most. And then also our conversations in the classes, and that more of that practical and experience inside I could provide, the real examples.
Mhm.
That really resonates with everyone.
Yeah, makes absolute sense. So can we talk a little bit about CCMP certification, the process, and the role of ACMP, the Association of Change Management Professionals?
Yeah, absolutely. So ACMP, so Association of Change Management Professionals, it's a global organization specifically created to be a home for all change management practitioners. So ACMP has been in life for about 10 years. I actually had a pleasure to be a global board member for the organization for the past 3 years. Yes, so a lot of my heart and passion went into this organization as well. But I think what's more important to everybody to know is that ACMP was created to really help industry grow and really provide a certain standard and quality globally when it comes to the profession. So next to like any other professional association, whether it's HRP or SHRM in US, or the accounting associations or many other financial professional associations, next to learning resources like webinars, conferences, access to articles, ACMP also provides a code of conduct, a standard of how to practice, and part of that it's also CCMP professional designation.
Mhm.
So certified change management professional, or CCMP, and I want to make that distinction, it's a professional designation which is different than other certifications in the market. So for example, I know a lot of may have heard about ProSci certification. The difference is, for example, any of those course certifications are certification of completions of a course or completion of specific methodology. ACMP, Ccmp is different because it's a standard saying that you not only meet a certain educational level and you have certain educational background, you also have a certain number of years of experiences, and you were tested on your knowledge as well as on your practical skills of applying and practicing change management discipline. So it's really certified that you are a qualified and experienced change practitioner.
That's such an amazing distinction. I actually did not know just how specific this certification is. It's amazing.
I know, and that's again, change management is part of this growing industry. That's one of the aspects. And again, I know because I was part of the board. So that's the emphasis when we have been putting on really making sure that there is a distinction, that it's about professional designation. It's not just completion of the course. You actually need to prove you have education, certain years of number of experiences. There are two different type of like qualitative questions you need to pass, then actually the exam you need to pass. So it's a very comprehensive process to obtain that professional designation.
And as Maggie mentioned, Ashton College is one of the qualified education providers for ACMP, which is really fantastic to be a part of as well.
Yeah, so the way I designed curriculum is to make sure that we hit on some of those core definitions from the standard, because standard is the foundation for the designation. And also we're hitting on those practical aspects that Ccmp designation requires you to complete under so you can get your educational credits.
Yeah. Awesome. So we just talked about education, designations. Let's talk about everyday life. Can these skills that you learn, I'm so fascinated, the change management skills, do they affect your everyday life? Like, have you noticed a change in how you interact with people outside of the workplace?
Yes, hugely. I think, and that's also what triggered me. So, if I can put in one more story, like my first job when I moved to Canada was actually in credit union that was just about to go through a merger. And it was really interesting. And it was merger with a financial institution, so not another credit union. There is a big distinction between the credit union or any financial bank or other financial institution. And the first thing that triggered my interest was literally how people perspective and interaction change almost overnight, and the conversations they were having. And I couldn't understand, like, whoa, why are you really not in favor of that happening? Like, that's actually has a lot of opportunities. So when I started to learn more about change management and really what it's solving for, and really, I think that foundation of really understanding how individual is looking at change and what's required for individual to successfully go through change, that more psychological, emotional aspect, behavioral aspect, I think that really provided me with so much insight on everyday basis to understand why even me, myself, behave or react or think certain things on every day. Or it was easier for me to really understand other people's behaviors. So really, I think, really that all amplifies those personal skills, but it also amplifies how you look at other individuals and what's happening with them, what they're going through, and some of the actions they may be taking, right? I think the second aspect is also, there are some models that are so basic, but they're so practical that you can implement them in everyday life whenever you're trying to make the smaller change. Like, I have kids. Sometimes, I look at those and apply some of that learnings to navigate, how I'm parenting my kids, but also how I'm trying to navigate as a team leader with some of my teams that I'm leading on projects, right? What do I need to do to coach better, to trigger the personal change? So a lot of that stuff is very applicable. And as you get to do more and more of that work, you also understand that pretty much any change, anything that organizations understand is undertaking, if they understand change management principles, anything they do is a change. The size and scale is different. So if you miss that aspect, that's when you get into trouble. So it's just having that knowledge and looking through that lens makes you so much more effective at whatever it is that you do, whatever it is, whether it's personal life or professional life.
It's so interesting that you talk about a connection to, social behavior, psychology, and then
It's
parenting as
huge.
well.
It's
Yeah.
huge. It's really the whole, like, I think, we focus on organizations and processes, but change management is about people. And the root cause and everything we're solving for is really human behavior. So if you don't link that aspects that's actually what I'm solving for. It's not really the steps and the process and the boxes I need to check. It's about how do I influence and support the human through the change. You need to really go a little bit deeper into that aspect. And once you understand, and again, I'm not a psychologist. Sometimes I actually wish, I think, I could probably put my business degrees aside and I would be even more effective and I have a psychology degree. But even if you wrap your head around some of those basics, you're so much more effective and your understanding and perspective really enhances. You look at everything through completely different lens.
Now, you've made me so curious. I think I would assume that human resources professionals would go into change management just because that kind of makes sense to an outsider. But, do you get social workers? Do you get people with a background in psychology? Like, what is the breadth on that?
So it really depends, right? It really depends in a context. And I think, I've seen people from many different walks of life. Like if you navigating changes in, like, for example, government public services, whether it's, so when you have that social worker layer, a lot of them, what they practice, whether they know or not, it's also grounded on the same principles. And a lot of them already applies that, like, change management actually have been applied quite a lot in the public services government industry. So a lot of them naturally take on those roles. And a lot of them, in a way, I was public service worker, but in that project, I started to do this and I became change management professional. There is also in organizations like in business private sector, there's a lot of individuals who started in technology field, right? They started as business analysts or programmers or developers, and they just got really intrigued, like, hey, we're doing all of technology, but then we have all those challenges. How is that? And by curiosity, they started to address some of those things, right? And then also how they naturally converted into change management side. So I really seen people from many different walks of life making that conversion. And it always gets triggered by, I've seen it, I experienced it, it was tough, and I really enjoy it. I was trying to help, and that's how people make that conversion.
Amazing. The technology one always really shocks me. I spoke with one of the graduates who took the course with you. He said he had a background in technology, and I was just, that's so fascinating.
A lot of, because that's when my journey, like, I think still a lot of the changes in a lot of organizations are technology initiated, or right now as organizations are making that shift to digital services, it's all technology based. So a lot of folks from technology gets really that interest around, or they experience challenges, or they just don't know what do I do in those circumstances. And that's when they'll get a little bit of that taste of change management, or they hear about change management, or they're trying to do it, but it doesn't work. So, like, what do I need to do? Like, what do I do wrong? Or what else do I need to do, right? And that's how they slowly learn more and make that conversion. Yeah.
Amazing. I think this leads nicely into my next question, actually. So it's another big one for you, but I know you can handle it. How has the industry evolved in your experience, and how has the changes to the industry influenced the labor market? Like, are we seeing an increase in demand for change management experts?
Yeah, the short answer, to your last part of the question is yes, which is great news for all of us. But I think, as I mentioned before, fairly new discipline, discipline goes back to 1940. So the discipline has been around for a while. I think the industry has been growing and really experienced a lot of growth and became more of, I would say, mainstream and more commercialized within the last probably 12 years or so. So I think, before kind of that 10, call it 15-year mark, change management has been predominantly living it was a sole domain among many consulting companies, right? So me being part of a management consulting company, I got a preview fairly early. But all the consulting companies have the change management in their back pocket as a methodology. So whenever they were providing their services, they were also doing change management. And then I think around 2008, 2009, change management became more commercialized and more mainstream. And by that, what I mean, more organizations or more firms starting to break from the consulting organizations and starting to sell their methodology or training courses in the market, making it more available and more mainstream. Also, 10 years ago, Ccmp was created because of that growing trend. So even 10 years ago, I think change management still has been fairly new and upcoming. And why many organizations knew that, it's a new discipline, not everybody knows what to do or how to practice. Right now, over the last year, that's shifted. So it's very common, everybody asks for it, everybody knows it. Few organizations went even as far as they have their own organizational internal pockets. They don't rely on consultants. So the growth has been really huge. And it's nobody right now, if you tell them change management, everybody will know what you're talking about. So also with recent changes, moving to digitalization, COVID, especially right now, that even gave that, a lot. So you see way more ask and jobs and opportunities for change management practitioners and professionals. So overall, huge growth, really fast. And I would say a lot of opportunities, potentially even more and more coming up soon.
That's really exciting, especially for prospective students who might be taking the course. It's always, a big question that people have is like, how is this industry going to, how vital is it going to be in a couple of years? So really exciting to hear. I do have a couple more questions for you, but I also want to jump over to check out our Facebook Live audience and just see if we have any questions there. Lindsay, did you have any questions for us from Facebook Live?
Hey guys, this is amazing. Monika, your answers to everything have been incredible. Thank you so much. I do have one question from Facebook. It says, I'm interested in taking the course, but I have no background in HR. So will I have a hard time with this course with zero HR experience?
No, the answer is no. You don't need HR experience. I think, as I said before, many individuals started from many different backgrounds. Having HR background is not a prerequisite whatsoever. It's actually, we're not tapping on many HR subjects at all. So it's not a prerequisite. If you have any organization background or you a student studying, doesn't matter actually what discipline, anyone can join. So please don't think about it that way. It's associated with HR. HR background is not a requirement at all.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I love how accessible the course is. Absolutely. And thanks, Lindsay, for that question. Awesome. So I just want to give another shout out for our attendees. If you do like to sit with your questions or maybe they come to you later, you can always email us at ceinfo@ashtoncollege.ca, or you can give us a call at 604-891-1256 or toll free at 1-866-759-6006. You can chat with Maggie if you have any more admissions questions, or you can always pass those on to Monika too if there's specific industry questions. So great. We chatted about industry development. We got a little extra time, so I do like to add in a little fun question. Just because one of our values at Ashton College is about lifelong learning and continuing education. Do you have anything you're reading right now? Anything on your bookshelf? If it's educational, maybe fun.
To be honest with you, I have been on a few quite challenging projects over the spring. They actually all been COVID related and vaccinations related.
Wow.
So when I had a time and a little bit of time during this time, I actually diverted to more light reading. So nothing really heavy on a professional side. I get a lot of that at work. And, if I read something, it's just random articles. But yeah, the last book I said was Malibu Rising. So it was totally relaxing, fun, surfing, summer related to really
Love it.
decompress and relax.
So I say there's always the option, maybe for fun, maybe for education.
It's definitely, if I'm reading right now, it's more for fun. If I'm reading something, it's more articles. Like I do read a lot of more professional articles that are get released or blogs or anything you can find on LinkedIn. But that's, it's just you always scan something catches your eye, right? So it's tough to even list. But yeah, the book I'm trying right now to read for fun.
Awesome. You deserve it. Great. So I actually just have one last question for you. I do want to, of course, invite our attendees. If anyone has any more questions, you can put those in the chat box, Q&A box. You can still leave us a comment on Facebook Live or on YouTube, or email us ceinfo@ashtoncollege.ca or call 604-891-1256. So Monika, my last question for you is, what advice would you offer to someone who is considering taking this course, but is maybe on the fence or unsure of it?
I think, and again, I'm not like, I do strongly believe that even if you don't know if you want to practice or not, or you should learn what change management is and should learn some of those change management principles. They really infiltrate every aspect of life, like professionally or not. And I think the course can help you. Definitely, it will shed more light on what change management is, what it requires to do it well, and how to do it effectively. So even after the course, you won't be you don't want to practice, you definitely will come, finish the course way better informed and with different perspective on how to navigate any change or any initiatives in your organization. And I also think, if you hesitant thinking you don't have right qualifications or you don't have the right experience or you're coming from different discipline or with different background, I would strongly encourage you put those aside. Really put those aside. If you look at the website, we don't list any prerequisites that you need HR degree or you need a technology certifications or anything like that. Does not apply. It's really, even if you're interested and you want to learn, join. It's really the course about how to navigate and manage change effectively. If someone wants to do the certification, it will definitely help them. If someone wants to just learn and maybe consider it in the future, it's the great way to get familiar.
Amazing.
But I think, either way, you're not going to lose, because those change management aspects and understanding change management, it's becoming more and more critical in every aspects across all industries. I work in the change management from prisons, education institutions, government, cities, oil and gas, like name industry, financial insurance, name industry, health, Ministry of Health. There has been change and everybody's managing change across all industries. So it doesn't really matter. So it's applicable to everyone.
It sounds like you can really pair your expertise in change management with any of those other interests. Like if you have a passion for finance.
Yes, absolutely. And, and I had students coming from social services. I have students coming from financial organizations. I have students coming from, I think there was one from tobacco industry. So everybody is coming from a different background and everybody, walk out of the course benefiting greatly. So.
Amazing. Thank you so much for those words of wisdom and wonderful advice, for all of your time today.
My
Also
pleasure.
give a shout out to Maggie and Lindsay. Thank you as well for being here today and for all of our attendees on Facebook and Zoom. And I think with that, I'll just wish everyone a fantastic rest of the week.